Okay, welcome back to the channel and thank you for joining me on this philosophy of music video, which from the title you can also see as a reaction video. I actually tried shooting this video yesterday outdoors. It was such a beautiful spring day here. All that snow from the other day had melted, but one of my cats kept knocking over the camera, and so I don't think I'm going to release that version because it's just too chaotic, even for this channel. But yeah, I was sloshing around doing the evening chores yesterday, and I had just been watching a playlist, which was actually a set that a viewer had recommended in one of the live streams in the last week, and it was the Jeff Beck birthday tribute to Les Paul. And it was a fantastic little concert in this exclusive, I guess that was Les Paul's studio or something. I got to go back and watch it, but it was a rock and roll party. You know, very gifted musicians gathered on stage with Jeff Beck to pay tribute to some of the rock and roll greats of really 1950s. There were some old standards there, blues standards that may have come from an earlier period, like Train Kept a Rolling, but there was some Bill Haley and the Comets and Elvis and others, and so the sound was really from that 50s era, and you know, thanks to that viewer for mentioning this video. This actually came about as I was showing off a recent vinyl haul I had picked up, and I had some Jeff Beck in that little bit of vinyl that I had picked up just previously, and so the viewer made the suggestion to check out this set, which was about an hour and a half long. I think it was 28 songs, and so I was about halfway through the set when I decided to go outside and take care of my animals for the evening. And as I was walking around, going about my routine, and some basic things just started to click for me as far as, you know, integrating my enjoyment of music as well as my understanding of music. And if you've been watching this channel for any amount of time, I have a tendency of integrating all these various aspects in my life into one big whole. It's kind of a larger map of the whole terrain of my life, and music plays a key part in that, and farming plays a key part in that as well. And so what I've done in the past on this channel as far as music is pay tribute to some of my musical influences that have really impacted me as a young man, and even now that have made a real difference in my life. And it's always been something that's fascinated me, like, what is music? And I've heard Andy Edwards and others try to broach the subject from their own perspectives, and maybe you've noticed I kind of come at music from a different approach than maybe some others you may have seen on YouTube or elsewhere. But for the longest time it's been a question to me, like, what makes music different from non-music? It has to be more than just sound vibration and, you know, the combination of rhythm, melody, and harmony. There's something lively about music that you know when you're hearing it. It's just that's the way it is. But that explanation isn't enough for me. And so as I was you know, thinking on this musical jam session, which was very good, by the way. I enjoyed it thoroughly. It got me to thinking. It's like, what that word I used just not even a minute ago. There was something very lively about it, and I could pick up in the song set and you know, the wild noises that Jeff Beck was coaxing out of his guitar. these sounds and these rhythms and these beats and the influence it made on the musicians I listened to, because I wasn't a big Elvis fan. That was more my parents' generation. And but I could see, the Aerosmith obviously picked up on Train Kept a Rollin' and Walking in the Sand and others, and they did a very good job of their rendition, but just from a different era and a different style, different interpretation and presentation. But I could hear in that song set, and Jeff Beck, he was making his own interpretation. The brass section and the drummer, they were all, the bassist, they were all doing a wonderful interpretation, a modern interpretation of these older songs. And so you could tell, like, these musicians were influenced by those that came before them. And thinking back to the beginnings of this channel, I started off by doing a set of videos called Standing on the Shoulders of Giants. And one of those episodes was a music video talking about the impact of music on my life, and how I rediscovered music through YouTube primarily. And this is such a wonderful platform to be discussing this and finding all these gems, both from the past and things that is being put out there nowadays. There's all kinds of opportunities for musicians that are different from the way we did things in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and beyond. But in any case, I was, again, kind of splashing through the mud puddles yesterday, and just it got me to think, like, what is it about music, and like, what's lacking in today's music? And there were a couple of key thoughts that came to mind, and one of them is that liveliness. That, I'm not the first to say this, and I don't intend to make this any kind of profound video. This is actually bordering on the line of incoherent babbling. But the thought that came to mind is that music is creative and all art is creative at its essence. And in a way, this was the key thought, it's very transactional. And so what I mean by that is that the artist, the creator of the song or the piece of art, whether it's a painting or sculpture, some musical composition or what have you, poetry, some prose, a novel, there's an intention. There's something that happened in his imagination, his or her imagination, to allow this creative spark to manifest in something he is bringing forth into reality. And this creative process has an intention in mind, which is the partaker or the receiver of the art or the song. We'll just limit it to music. The musician is creating a song that is meant to be heard. I guess at its extreme, a musician could keep all his compositions to himself, but I do believe that in general, for the most part, the intention is to create something to be enjoyed by someone, and that someone could be anyone. And so the receiver is connecting with the creator, and there's a transaction involved because there's something inherently valuable that has been created and that wants to be experienced or received or partaken of. And that really boils down to the very nature of life. I mean, I'm not going to turn this into a sermon, but this gets at the very nature of God and creation as well. And I'm going to limit my discussion of God and all the theological implications, but all religions have considered this question really at the most part, is like, where did we come from? How did we get here? And what's our purpose? And the God of the Bible, the God of the Christian faith, goes back to Genesis 1, where it said, in the beginnings God created the heaven and the earth. And the story goes on of how that creation came about, and as well the message that the pinnacle of God's creation is us, you and me and every other man and woman, child that's ever been created, brought forth into this world. Like the coming together of the sperm and the egg. Others have called it the yin and the yang, the masculine, the feminine, whatever principle you adhere to. It's our very nature is creative. God said, go forth, be fruitful and multiply. That was the first commandment to the man and woman He created, and just by our very nature of relationship and union in that sense, we are going to bring forth children in creation. That creativity is again standing on the shoulders of giants. God, I believe God's handiwork is upon every man, woman, and child that's ever lived. It's a combination of the DNA from the male and the DNA from the female comes together in a unique way to produce yet another unique being. Made in the image of God. Now, having said that, I was brought up in a generation where we started to devalue human life in a really unique way. Like my parents' generation was the first that had access to birth control and abortions, and however you feel about that, at its essence, it seems clear that human life began to be devalued in a way. And I've said this in other videos where I really kind of checked out of the new music that was being produced at a certain point, because it's almost like that liveliness that was present in the 50s, 60s, 70s, even through the 80s. It was really starting to wane, and it's like there was something in not my ear that was picking it up, but in your soul that was picking it up. Like you could hear that devaluation, or that liveliness was dwindling to the point where now, where are we at? AI is potentially going to be producing the music for us, tailored to us. And I mean, I haven't reached a conclusion on that matter, but my impression, my feeling is that there is no life in that music. It is almost just a clanging cymbal or just sound vibration. Now there's people using AI with various large language models and the ability to create music, but the user or the interfacer is using that software, that programming to create. It's not the AI doing it all on its own, by its own. There's still something that's directing the process. At some point, we as the interface may become detached, or the AI may just understand what it is we need without us being required to provide any input. It may get to know us that well. That's another topic for another day. But getting back to the idea that as we devalue human life, it's reflected in our art. Look at the brutalism in architecture. Look at modern art. I don't understand modern art at all. Whereas, impressionism and realism, like there's some real beauty to behold there. Some of the stuff that's being sold to us as art is really difficult to digest. Or enjoy in any case. And that's just me. I get that it's a product of my upbringing and what I was used to. So I'm biased in that sense. So quite possibly somebody from Gen Z or Gen Alpha may have a completely different perspective and see that beauty even in the most aesthetically unpleasing structures, products. I don't know the exact word to use there. I hope you're catching on to my meaning, but I'm not trying to be esoteric or mysterious. I'm not sure what the right word is to place in there. The whatever expression, however that expression you're beholding, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? But from my sense, being Gen X, I'm familiar with that sound of the 50s. I most certainly enjoyed the sound that came out of the 60s and 70s and the MTV generation that came out of the 80s. So it was through the 90s that the sound started to change. And to my sensation, to my experiencing of it, it was becoming dehumanizing. And we'll just leave it at that. So, again, all these are my subjective opinions and judgments. If you're triggered by subjectivity and judgmentalism, well, I guess there's other channels out there. But if you're still watching at this point, you'll be all right. It's going to be all right. But being on the farm here and integrating this revelation or this epiphany that there's this transactional nature. I look around at my animals and it's like their job is to create. Their very nature is to create as well. The chickens I have, I just want to kind of maybe illustrate to you what I'm getting at. Like the animal kingdom, if we could call it that, was given its own mandate, separate from the kingdom of mankind. And it was, again, to go forth and multiply. But they just create by nature. And so there's animals we use for utility and some for just sheer beauty, some for their work that their output. Sometimes it's their produce, the things we eat, the things we can make out of their carcasses or what have you. But being on a farm, again, it's an integration of all these different facets of my experience. If any of you have checked out my Alice Cooper tribute, I went into a whole explanation of the line from that song Black Juju, everything I'm living for is all that I am. I'm liking it, loving it, it's all in the plan. And it's just that learning to live one day at a time, and living in the moment, and just appreciating the beauty that's all around. And music helps me do that. And so I just wanted to show my audience, I don't know if some of you may not have ever experienced some of this, but this is an egg from one of my hens that just started laying eggs. She's just learning how to be a chicken. So she was a little chick last year, and so she's growing through the winter, and she's now just starting to lay eggs. And I don't know if you can see on this, but there's little bumps and ridges and little bits of extra calcium on the shell, and it's kind of wrinkly. So it's not the prettiest egg, but the fantastic detail. My phone is not going to pick up this detail well enough, but I could just look at this egg and appreciate it for its beauty because one of my animals made that, and so I can either crack this open, fry it up, or stick it in the incubator and have a little chick in 3 weeks, or I could just there's any number of things I could do with this egg. I'm not limited. I'm only limited by my imagination. And then, that shell, no matter what comes out from the inside, that shell made out of calcium, that has some value. Here's another egg, That's not dirt. That's just a speckled brown egg. I mean, to me, it's the most beautiful thing in the world to just look at the incredible detail in some of these things. I mean, it's a gorgeous one too. And by the way, these colored eggs, they're not any healthier than a white egg. The color of the shell is only a function of the breed of the animal. It's what you feed the animal and the living conditions, giving them lots of fresh air, sunlight, a little pat in the head from time to time, a good quality feed, good water, access to water, and you'll get the healthiest, most nutritious eggs. But look at this perfect egg right here. I mean, just a little off-white, but absolutely gorgeous. And I'm going to show you what these look like inside. Like sometimes you get a brown egg with a blue inside. The way I do my breeding with my chickens is I just let them all do their thing together. So I don't have any pure breeds. They're all just a barnyard mix. But this is, I don't know if you can see this. I don't want to spill it. I have to spill it. Actually, here, I'll do this. This is an egg in the springtime. So I don't know what you're eating from the supermarket, but that nice deep yellow, almost orange colored egg. I mean, that's what my chickens are doing at this time of year. I mean, if you go to the fancy chefs and the restaurants in France and whatnot, they would look at the spring eggs and turn their nose like those eggs are garbage. Just feed them to the dogs. It's the September eggs that are quality. You know, when the animals have been out on the pasture and eating little bugs and grubs and worms and grass and seeds and lots of fresh air and sunlight. Those are the tastiest, richest, most nutritionist eggs that you'll ever come across. But for eggs in April in southern Manitoba, I'm pretty pleased with what my girls are doing. And I think after this video, I'll go downstairs and throw that in the frying pan and make me a little sandwich. But I only show you that to kind of demonstrate like the drive of nature is to create. It's to be productive. It's to be fruitful. And the trend in music, to me, has been going away from that. And we do that collectively as a culture, as a society. And as I said, the starting tipping point of that may have been a time when we really started to devalue human life. And you can almost see it happening more and more where we as individuals are just being commodified by the powers that be or that ought not to be. And it kind of translates into how we respond to one another, how we treat one another. And so the music, it's just that sound was more lively, and the transaction was between people that wanted that creative spirit, for lack of a better word, to be able to enjoy that experience together between the music creator, and again we'll stick with music, but this applies to all art forms, the music creator and the listener. And tell me where I'm wrong. I just, there's not a lot of new music that I can listen to. There's a few artists that have something going on, but in general, like the the rock and roll or the rock bands or the heavy metal bands, like it's not what it was. Like rock is dead. There's I don't think there's anything we can do about it other than go back in our time machines, namely YouTube, and continue to enjoy these bands, these albums, all this music that we don't want to forget. We don't necessarily want to replace it either. It speaks for itself. Some of it is very timeless. Some of it has created the soundtracks of our lives. And as I've said, the inability for me to separate these things out, like this is this is part of my life that's just dedicated to music, and this is part of my life that's just dedicated to work, or this is part of my life that's just dedicated to farming, or my family, or it's I can't do that. It's all one big whole, one delightful reality. And this all came about as, again, a suggestion during a live stream from a viewer saying, "Have you checked out this little mini concert by Jeff Beck?" And I'm really glad I got that suggestion, and I had the time to follow up and check it out. I'll be leaving the link in the description for you. You can check it out yourself. By all means, leave some comments. I'll be doing some live streams with more of this integrated approach to life and everything, including some incoherent babbling. And I hope that that is something you can follow me along on the journey. And so this isn't primarily a music channel, but music plays very heavily into everything that I can and will produce here. As well, what got me to thinking is I had been sharing my record haul on the live streams. I think I'll do a couple of videos where I go through some of the most recent purchases that I've got, because my collection has grown pretty quickly, and in the last year or so, less than a year, well, it's even the last few months, it's really grown substantially. And so I'll do a couple of videos that aren't part of live streams, just so you can see what's ahead for me on my listening list. And then I look forward to hearing your suggestions of things that I could be listening to as well. And by all means, go back, check out my other music videos, check out all my videos. If you're going through all that trouble, you may as well subscribe. I know you've already liked this. You're sharing it with everybody, including your 12 sock accounts, which are all subscribed as well. What else do we need to do? I think that's it. So I look forward to seeing you on the next video. And I'm going to go make me a fried egg sandwich.